Shawn, thank you. You always pump up a crowd, which means my job is really hard because I get to speak after you. But we're grateful for you and your service to the state of New Jersey. Let me also join Barbie in thanking the elected leaders that came out tonight. We're grateful for your service. Let me thank you, Barbie, for your passionate chairmanship of the board and all of the water. Yep. We have a fantastic board of trustees that I wouldn't trade with anyone. The passion, the commitment, the enthusiasm, the dedication is fantastic, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, Watershed members and volunteers and new friends that are here tonight. All of you enable us to continue our efforts to keep Central New Jersey's water clean, safe, and healthy. I want to talk a little bit about this tree behind me. Take a good look at this tree. This is a dawn redwood, Metasequoia glyptostroboides. It's an ancient species from Asia that was known only through fossils until the 1940s, till a botanist from China discovered a small grove of the trees in the mid-40s. A finding, I'll add, that to many was considered the greatest botanical discovery of the 20th century. And it's an interesting tree for a couple of reasons. One, it's been planted around the globe at this point. You find it in a lot of botanical gardens, college, university campuses, places like the Watershed Institute. But it's considered highly endangered in its native land, the area where it was discovered in China. So there's something of a interesting juxtaposition right there. And the dawn redwood is one of only about 20 known deciduous conifers in the world. Now, what does that mean? How many times do you hear the words deciduous and conifers in juxtaposition like that? We all grew up learning that conifers were evergreens, right? Well, there are a few that are not. I have to say it's always a little bit alarming in the fall when the leaves of this tree turn brown and the needles start to fall. It kind of makes you gasp a little bit. Oh my God, this tree that we can only assume was planted by our patron Muriel Gardner Buttinger at some point in the perhaps late 40s. We are stewards of this tree as we are of this land, and we want to make sure that it survives us. But this tree is also, to me, a symbol of hope and a symbol of faith. That spring will return, the leaves will come back, the tree is not, in fact, dead. It's alive and healthy. And with it, all of the wonders that Barbie discussed a few minutes ago, the spring ephemerals, the runs of migratory fish in our rivers, the sweet songs of birds, the eruption of amphibians living in vernal pools, all of those things will come back to life. And it has special meaning, I think, this year as we gather together for the Watershed's first annual meeting together in person in 3 years. Yes, thank you. And we're continuing the work. We're not through this terrible period quite yet completely, but we're getting damn close to full strength at the Watershed, to conducting a full suite of our conservation, advocacy, science, and education program, to fully engaging the public in our work and engaging them in conservation. I think often about our wonderful Stream Watch volunteers. This is another kind of phenomenon at the Watershed. These are individuals, they're volunteers. They monitor water chemistry, biological health, and bacteria levels at nearly 75 locations in our region. And like the leaves of the dawn redwood, these dedicated volunteers come back. They come back time and time again, in good weather and not so good weather, right? It's the dedication. And we can only sit in our offices hoping, praying that these wonderful volunteers will come back and allow us to continue that work. Well, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Streamwatch program. Let's give that an applause. The program was created by one of my predecessors, Jamie Kite-Sapo, our executive director in the late 80s and early 90s. Jamie is not able to be here tonight. She wished that she was, but she passes along her greetings. And Jamie said something to me for the first time, which I'll pass along to you, that launching Streamwatch was one of the most satisfying and rewarding accomplishments of her career. And that's saying an awful lot coming from Jamie Sapo, who's accomplished so much. Streamwatch, back in the early 90s, sprouted to life thanks to a grant from Sam Hamill, who I don't think made it here tonight, and a technical advisory committee of scientists that included Bob Tucker, who was at Rutgers University at the time. And Bob is here today. Bob, would you stand up for a second? Should add that Bob was also an employee at DEP and at the Watershed back in the day. I should also note that many of our early volunteers back in 1992 and ever since were members and are members of the Garden Club of Princeton, which is a great partner for the organization. One of them has volunteered with the program for all 30 years of Streamwatch. And we're going to recognize her a little bit later in the program. She is here tonight, and I'm looking at you, lady. Over the years, the Watershed's Streamwatch volunteers have collected a staggering amount of data on water temperature, pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment levels, dissolved oxygen, macroinvertebrate communities, and bacteria levels. This data helps determine the need for restoration activities, identify particularly high water quality, deserving of enhanced regulatory protection, and determine whether it's safe for extended contact in the water for our pets and ourselves. This year, as Barbie alluded to, is a very exciting time for our Streamwatch program as we celebrate this 30th anniversary. With funds provided by an anonymous donor, we are purchasing new equipment for the field and for our lab and creating a new program that we're calling Streamwatch Schools. The program will engage students in the practice of monitoring the water near their schools and identifying ways to address factors that may be degrading their local streams. This is where the Watershed Institute really is at its best, when we can combine the forces, the science, the knowledge of our various programs, our scientists working with our educators, working with our advocates, working with our land stewards. This kind of dynamic integration of the pillars of our work is where this organization really shines. And so we're very excited about the Streamwatch Schools program. Please give another round of applause for the Streamwatch program and its 30 years. Of course, we have lots to report, and I'm not going to keep you along much longer. I know it's getting a little chilly. I can see the lips starting to quiver just a little bit. But I want to talk about a few more things, only to thank you for your support and your work that has made these accomplishments possible. So I'll just name a few things. We really can't get enough of talking about the Penn-East pipeline around here, can we? I was looking at my notes. The last 4 meetings, one of our accomplishments that I spoke of was, and we helped delay the Penn-East pipeline for another year. Well, now we can say that damn thing is dead and buried, and it was thanks to a lot of you, and of course many conservation organizations working together to make that a reality. A beautiful and important 153-acre mature forest in northwest Princeton has been permanently preserved Happened just at the end of last year, staving off the bulldozers and protecting a tributary of Beedens Brook. Thank you all very much. Trish Shanley, one of our trustees, is particularly active and important in that effort, so thank you, Trish. The Watershed science team continued its spirit and commitment to innovation, building 1,000 square feet of floating wetland islands and installing them in Rosedale Lake to address the dangerous, harmful algal blooms. Those floating wetlands, Steve, that's another thing we just don't get tired of talking about, do we? If you haven't seen them, we'll take you on a tour. We'll get you in a boat and go out and you can see them up close and personal, not very far from where we are right here. The folks that work on the reserve here are land stewards, and many volunteers were hard at work removing invasive species on several acres of the Watershed Reserve and planting hundreds of native plants in their place. So thank you to the crew. Allison Jackson, there you go. Thank you, Allison. Stewardship coordinator. Matt Thompson is here somewhere. There he is. Thank you. Property manager. I should add Eve Niedergang, who's our volunteer coordinator, I think is still here. No, okay. She's probably off with some volunteers somewhere. And something really important to us, expanding educational programming with children, teens, and adults from the city of Trenton as we really push on this new emphasis of expanding our work, extending ourselves into the greater Trenton area. So I want to thank the incredible, yes, thank you. I really want to just thank our incredible staff. They are so dedicated, hardworking, fabulous, good-looking, intelligent, all of these things. So please give them a round of applause. And they look great in those blue shirts. So I have occasionally heard a complaint about the blue shirts, so I'm wearing mine, guys. Okay. 7 of our staff actually have recently or will soon reach a milestone with us, and I want to point out, pay particular attention to them. The aforementioned Allison Jackson, Stewardship Coordinator, 15 years with the Watershed. Thank you, Allison. Aaron Stretz, our Assistant Director of Science and Stewardship, 10 years. Aaron, thank you. Matt Thompson, our Property Director, 10 years. Thank you, Matt Thompson. Pat Heaney, Assistant Director of Education, 5 years. Pat, there you are. Thank you, Pat. We mentioned Eve, who's not here. She's put in 5 years at the Watershed. Pam Podger, our Communications Manager, 5 years of service at the Watershed Institute. Thank you, Pam. And Dr. Steve Tordo, Director of Science and Stewardship, 5 years at the Watershed. Steve, thank you so much. All right, fingers are getting cold. It's hard to turn the pages. Okay. Let me just state in sum, because it's so much fun to do so, that the state of our Watershed Institute is strong. Okay. We still have an awful lot of work to do. The ravages of climate change, proliferation of plastics and other toxins in our water, explosion of warehouses across the landscape. The loss of forests are just some of the challenges, and we take these challenges very seriously, even as we celebrate our accomplishments, but we'll continue to address them with determination, with energy, and with hope, and we hope with all of your support. So, thank you all again for supporting our work. I'm so proud of the work that we do together and of the accomplishments that we've made together. Thank you so much for all of what you do for this organization.